Right now, the undecided vote in Iowa, a key target for all candidates, seemingly support Romney, but Rick Santorum gaining ground. Jonathan Collegio, he is a former press secretary for the National Republican Congressional Committee and now Director of Communications for American Crossroads, and Doug Schoen, a former pollster and for President Clinton and a Fox News contributor, and they join us now. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
And Happy New Year in advance.
Same to you.
So it looks like New Year coming a little bit early for Rick Santorum, and it looks like it's working out for him. Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, if you actually go back to May when the debates first started, you'll find that Rick Santorum has actually had a lot of great debate performances. He's been one of the top debaters, and I think that the reason why his candidacy hasn't caught on until now is because he's had, frankly, a difficult time raising money. I think that that's because his last re-election race for the Senate in 2006, he lost that. Now, that was a tough year for Republicans across the country, but especially in Pennsylvania. I think that House Republicans lost 4 seats in Pennsylvania in 2006. So that's really the millstone around Rick Santorum's neck, is that he lost his last bid for political office. But compared to some of the other candidates out there, that's not all that heavy of a millstone. So right now, at this moment, it's good to see that he's peaking. He's got a lot of energy, and I think that folks are really focusing on his strengths right now, which is that he's a good debater. He's a very, very sincere conservative, a very, very sincere pro-lifer, and I think that there's a huge reservoir of desire for a sincere candidate like that.
Doug, has it been a problem of resources for Rick Santorum, or what do you think is the central challenge to his campaign?
Well, there have been 2 challenges. First, there have been a number of front-runners in Iowa before him who have drawn his vote, whether they be Michelle Bachmann, Rick Perry, Newt Gingrich. That's really been a key issue. And the other issue is Santorum is running heavily, indeed almost, on social issues, and it's a time when the economy is in recession to make the case that you should nominate someone because of their position on gay marriage or abortion. I respect his views, but I'm not sure that that's enough to propel him into the first tier of candidates.
And Jonathan, what about that? Is the evangelical, the social conservative vote, is that enough?
Well, I think that what you're seeing with Rick Santorum on the social conservative, evangelical, gospel-centered conservative side is very much the same thing as you're seeing with Ron Paul on the fiscal side. There are a lot of these voters who really want to see a candidate speak his heart, really speak his mind, and they see that in Rick Santorum in the same way as many people see that in Ron Paul. People are hungry for that. They really want to see a candidate who will stick up for what they believe in, and right now they're seeing that in Rick Santorum. The question is whether or not he can finish first or second. That'll really catapult him into a good position in New Hampshire. And you have to remember, I mean, after the caucuses on Tuesday, this field is going to thin out quite a bit. So he really needs that first or second place finish to really catapult him into the next couple of contests.
And Doug, I want to get your take on that as we move forward from Iowa into New Hampshire. In terms of who comes in last place in Iowa, will this really do them in?
Well, yes, I think the candidates who finish at the bottom of the pack will be done in. And I agree that Rick Santorum really needs to finish in the first 2 or very, very close third to be a viable candidate and a strong viable candidate going forward. If he does, there's a reservoir of social conservatives if he makes it to Florida and South Carolina. But if he doesn't, you've got Ron Paul and Mitt Romney who are absolutely leading the pack in every poll. And if they win first and second by a commanding margin, it'll be increasingly difficult for Santorum to continue as a viable candidate, notwithstanding his very real surge now.
I mean, he's fallen drastically in the polls. You know, we still have all those undecided voters out there. Do you think that Newt Gingrich can come back around and recover? Jonathan?
I think he can. I mean, this is a fellow who, I mean, as long as there are debates on the calendar, Newt Gingrich will be able to thrive because that really is his environment. He wants to be debating as much as possible. He's going to make a very, very strong play for South Carolina. Remember, he's from Georgia, so he really is going to make a play for those southern states. And he's also, I think, leading some polls in Florida. So don't count Gingrich. I don't think anybody should do that. I heard Dick Morris on Fox News a couple days ago saying that people count Gingrich out for dead and that he may come back, and I think that that's the case. I think that there could be a second rising of Newt Gingrich at some point.
Yeah, they counted him out when his campaign staffers quit. They all came back around, and so, yeah, don't...
This would be a third rising.
Yeah, the third rising, I think, is what it would be. And as we wrap up, just quickly from both of you, prediction, what do you think will happen? Who's going to win Iowa?
I think I'm sorry, I was going to say, I think Ron Paul has a more dedicated and mobilized force of supporters and workers than Mitt Romney, so I'm predicting a narrow Ron Paul victory.
All right, Ron Paul. And Jonathan, you?
I think it'll likely be Romney. I mean, Ron Paul has a lot of support there. Romney's leading in most of the most recent polls. But however, Rick Santorum really coming on strong. He could win this thing depending on his momentum going into the final days.
All right, we'll see what happens. Thank you both for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Greg.
And we are tapped right into the political pipeline. Rick Santorum is live next hour on Happening Now at 11:30 Eastern Time right here